Hello, hello, and welcome to the Weeder Life podcast. I'm your host, Erica Weederlight, and I am the CEO and founder of We the Light. I help humans who feel inadequate, broken, self-conscious, and shamed around their sexuality to reclaim their aliveness, their power, and to have a renewed relationship to pleasure while preparing themselves to feel hella confident to date others and themselves. AKA, I'm guiding people to live their #best lives. I have to give you a fair warning. I do unfortunately swear like a drunken sailor, so if you do have little ones by you, just be sure to pop in some earbuds. All right, friends, let's buckle up and let's rock it to this week's episode. Okay, everyone, welcome back. I personally am shaking with excitement. This human that we have on the podcast today is an amazing, gorgeous spirit that I am just obsessed with. MaryAnn George is a queer, non-binary, trans genderfull being with, oh my gosh, let me tell you about this amazing human. A big, gorgeous, generous spirit. They have a wise, giving heart, an open mind, a youthful, vibrant energy, and I just want to play with MaryAnn George every day. MaryAnn coaches and teaches folks who seek alignment, unity, and joy in their everyday life, and they're absolutely killing it at that. They specialize in communication, intimacy, power dynamics, sexuality, and gender. We're going to get in on that. And their highest values are integrity, justice, transparency, and connection. And they say, and this is something so profound and so beautiful, that their practice is founded in uplifting, accepting, and affirming because they believe everyone is already capable, complete, and magnificent. Amen. We were all born whole. Somewhere along the way, we started believing otherwise. Whether it's stress, fear, expectations can cloud our knowing. And in their work, they invite folks to unravel that, to dig to the root, and to allow magic into their essence to flow freely. MaryAnn George, I'm fucking obsessed with you.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What an intro. I'm obsessed with you. This is magic.
This is magic. And that is, we have so much ground to cover, so many topics, but something that I love about you, and, you know, because we met, or how I stalked you, I suppose, is because we came from one of our certificates. You know, we did a certificate program together, and yet I saw you going out and taking the work that we learned and setting it on fire in the best way possible. Like, you took that work and made it fucking magic. And something I love about you is that you know, I'm looking at you now, the listeners can't see this, but with just like beautiful art around you and playfulness and magic. And that's something that, can you like speak to that? Like that playfulness that, it sounds like, you know, no one's perfect, but you're really committed to having that play, having that magic in your life. Like, how do you do that? How, if someone's totally new and they're like, MaryAnn, I want that. How do you follow that magic every day?
Oh, thank you. This is, I'm like, wow, I feel so seen because that's like you just like went right to the heart of my work and my life and what I'm committed to and what I'm here to do. And I always joke when people say, well, what's your niche or who's your audience? I'm like, my niche is joyful liberation for all. And so when you say that, I'm so grateful for that. I've been very blessed in my life to have so many experiences. I studied design and art, and I worked on a farm, and I worked as a dominatrix. And in every one, play is the thing I've nannied. Play is like the thing that always draws me. And to me, it's like, that's what I'm here to do, is to play. And one of my monikers that I use is the priestess of play. It's like, play is sacred. Play is like where we shift and we learn, and we don't have to commit to roles. We can like move in and out of them. And I love that you said no one is perfect. I've lately been thinking like, ooh, imperfect means to me perfectly human. And so I'm like, it's perfectly human to play. Like, we're animals, we play. And that's how we learn. And like, I don't know if you're familiar with any Montessori philosophy, but I have some siblings' children are in Montessori schools, and I just love their philosophy of play. And I'm like, that to me is the thing. And it's like, I remember being stuck in, I had a very intense experience in art school, like as the overachiever, taking all the art credits and double majoring and minoring and all the fun stuff. And I remember like hanging out with my mentor, and my mentor would be like, where are you stuck? And I'd be like, I'm stuck in these projects. And she would always be like, how can you have more fun? I'm like, yes, that is the answer. Because when you're having fun, you're engaged, you're in the moment, you're savoring, you're present in your body, you're embodied. It's like, to me, it's like, it's the secret trapdoor to embodiment and pleasure is fun, is play. It's like, oh my gosh, well, if you're having fun and you're playing, of course you're in your moment. Of course you're in your body. Of course you're like with your spirit and moving with your desires, and also honoring your boundaries, because play really embraces boundaries and really embraces learning the boundaries and being like, oh no, actually, I let you do that thing and I didn't like it. So I'm going to take that back, and we're just playing, and this is experimentation, and we can change and shift as we go. So I just thank you for like hitting that just so deep in that place that I love.
No, thank you for being you. Again, reason 7005 why I'm obsessed with you. But you hit so many potent moments right there. But something that I need to highlight, especially for this audience, because I always vomit out, and I truly believe it, so it's a good vomit.
Yeah.
It's a healthy vomit. Is pleasure, 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 and people are like, yes, and what does that mean? And so, and I always get frustrated because I want people to have accessibility to this work. And I'm like, oh, how can I communicate this more deeply, more easily, more tangible? And something that I love about your work is you just took that and simplified it. Because I always say, how can this moment be more pleasurable? But I love what you said. How can this be more fun? How can this be more playful? And I'm like, ooh, that is such a good question to ask ourselves every day, especially in the mundane. Like, how can this be more fun? How can this be more playful? So thank you for that. That's such a good one. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you for pointing that out, because that actually brings me to like my issue with pleasure was like, when people would say pleasure a few years ago when I was new to this work, I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. But when people say play, I'm like, oh, well, we've all been a kid. We've all played. We know what play is. We like inherently know what both are. But I think in our culture, pleasure is like, it just seems, for me, it seemed very big and intimidating. And play, it's like, oh, well, I have like physical, sensational memories of play. I know how to play. And so for me, like play has led to pleasure, but approaching pleasure by itself first was like a very daunting task. And I just felt like, I felt broken. I felt like something was wrong with me, but play was like, that is accessible. So I'm glad that you noted that, because I do think like there's so much pressure on pleasure that it can be really scary and like kind of intimidating for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I mean, you know the deal. Like, I am so obsessed with this work and I want people to know it. And yet I feel like I'm doing a disservice. Does that make sense? Like, so for some people, they're like, got it, know what you're talking about, great, apply, copy, paste, got it. And I see other people being like, I kind of know what you mean, but I can't fully hear you. And I'm like, yes, so thank you for this conversation. Just makes it easier and more digestible. And even for me, like, I teach this work. I try to be in top. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I try to be in integrity. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm like, what the fuck is pleasure? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'm like, what does that even mean today? And it's funny, like, the play thing has helped because I'm like, Erica, it doesn't have to be, you're on a chaise lounge, getting like, I'll take that, but like, you don't have to be getting feathered and eating strawberries. Like, play. Go to fun, and I want to bridge this because I think this is an important topic, is especially in the pleasure realm. It's like we kind of go to the outrageousness and like, oh, the outrageousness, but it's like, again, we feel so broken if we can't jump that bridge.
Yeah.
Right? And play can help us jump that. We don't have to jump that bridge. We don't have to be outrageous, but the play can help us go to that place, because pleasure, it's like, I might not feel safe with pleasure, and you're asking me to be outrageous about this, so thank you for saying, like, we can play, and that in itself is an outrageous, radical, F the patriarchy act.
Yeah, well, and even as you're saying that, I'm like, the other thing for me that comes up as you're saying that is like, pleasure doesn't include, I know now that I've been able to embody it, that it does include like anger and grief and jealousy, but when I first was encountering it, it felt like it was like this is what pleasure looks like. And there's a lot that doesn't fit in it. Whereas when I think of, and I know that now not to be true, but that was my first feeling of it. And now that but for me, like, sorry, I'm tripping over my words a little bit, but play.
No, I'm obsessed.
But play is like, if I'm mad, I can play. Like the other day, I was like with someone and I was play pouting and I was kind of annoyed, but it was really fun to just like be a 2-year-old about it and like fucking have my moment of like pouty little shittiness. And that was play. And that play was pleasurable. Like it was pleasurable to embody my pouty little like pissed off emotion for a minute. And then we like snapped out of it and we snapped into like being adults and having a real conversation. But for that like 1 minute, that was a very pleasurable act for me, was to just like cross my arms and purse my lips and stomp my feet. And like, it wasn't, it was a consensual play moment, but it was really funny because I was like, oh, it's super pleasurable to be like a little shit sometimes. Like it's super pleasurable, like have a tantrum.
Yes. And I think that could be very threatening to tell people. First of all, to be like, embody pleasure. It's like, excuse me, what the hell does that mean? And then be like, you can have grief and pleasure. It's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? So I love that you pointed that out because I think it gets like lost in translation. Like, what do you mean? I'm supposed to be stroking myself and then also crying? Like, what does that look like? So I love that you're like, I'm going to embody my inner child. Like, I love that there's playfulness around this. And I think this is especially in our body of work, a really healing conversation. So thank you for that, because this is an invite to everyone that listens. Like, when you stumble around pleasure, what the hell that means, and it feels like this feels out of reach. It's like, okay, play. How can this be more fun? How could this be more fun? So thank you. That is, that's a deep one. We needed that one.
I love that. And I also, for me, I'm like, as a coach, I don't know how you feel, but in the work we do, like we can talk all day long, but until a client feels it,
yeah,
they're not getting it. And so they can logically get it and know what we're saying. But we know as coaches, when we see them get it, when it clicks on a physical, embodied, holistic level, you're like, oh my God, you got it. And they're like, oh my God, I know you've been saying this, but I just got it. And so I'm like, play is a really fast way for them to play with it, to get it, to embody it, to find it on their own, because that wisdom is in them. And sometimes the words I'm saying aren't going to match the wisdom in them. And then they just need to play and find what works for them. And for me, that's always like such a proud coach moment when they're like, oh my God, that thing you've been saying, like it clicked and I got it and I embodied it and it was amazing. And now my life is like, doors are opening.
Yes. And I'll end with this because I have so many juicy questions to ask you, but I just want to highlight that for so many people, of course we still can have charge on play, because we live in a fucking patriarchal society. But there's a lot of people just by living that have trauma from around pleasure. And, take away sexual, sensual, just like pleasure of like, I'm worthy and deserving of holding good things.
Yes.
So it's a beautiful practice to, offer and teach pleasure. I do, but there's a lot of charge and things to maneuver because, we're humans in this society that naturally, have this, pain connected to this word and confusion. And there's a lot to comb through. So I just want to highlight again that yes, there is charge around play because, we live in a patriarchal, let's go society. But it's a little bit less chargy. And for me, I know I feel in my body, I'm like, I want to play, like it's a little bit more accessible to me. Where pleasure, I'm like, that seems cool, but like, what does that mean? It's a little bit, it's funny. It goes to my head more. Like I go more into my head with pleasure, but with play, I'm like, I got it. And I am more embodied, which is the fucking point of both of our work. Yes. So thank you for that. I'm just genuinely curious because I'm like, I want to know everything. How do you navigate life with play being one of your foundational tools? So do you consistently ask yourself, like, how could this be more playful? How could this be more fun? Like, how can people start to bring this in as a foundational way of living?
I love that question. Thank you. Yeah, I'm constantly asking myself, how can this be more fun? Have I gotten the play that I need? It's so funny because I was just thinking, the phrase, I hear the phrase in our work a lot of like, the well-fucked person. Often the well-fucked woman, but I'm going to say person because gender binary is something I don't really need to be in right now. And like I was walking down the street yesterday just glowing and I was like, oh, for me, it's not so much like, yes, well, fucked, I get that. But for me, it's like well played. Like I'm like, I need to be well played at all times. Like I need to be listening to the music that makes me happy. I need to be taking time to make silly art. Like silly art for me is a practice that feels so, so good. I love to work in mediums I've never worked in. If something excites me, I like to go for it. I take my inner child and my inner artist on dates every week, a la The Artist's Way with Julia Cameron. Like that's a practice I'm just so grateful for, to like take my inner artist to the dollar store and be like, spend $20 and get all the glitter you want. And then I also like, I'm super kinky and I love to play with other people. And I love to go to play parties and have like new novelty is something that just like excites me to no end. So I love novelty. And then something that you hear around consent culture and also like, we also hear in improv teaching is like yes and also in consent culture is no but. So if someone makes an offer, you can say yes and or no but, and you're collaborating and you're playing, and that's how play works. And so I'm constantly like, how can I yes and or no but this? How can I lean in further or lean out more? Like how can I be engaged more or disengaged in a way that feels really good? And so that's my favorite question is how can I yes and or no but whatever is happening to me?
I'm literally shaking with excitement because I have a comedy background, because of whatever I did acting. And so I did improv for many years. And I was like, love yes and. And I've always had this thought, I'm like, but this is kind of problematic. Like I was like, this is kind of problematic. I am obsessed with no but. Yes. That is an awesome thing to add. I was talking to someone recently and they were saying like, I was doing the year of yes. And they were like, and it started out great. And it got real toxic because I wasn't listening to my body. And it just like, there was things that were no. That is so fun. And I love the no but because the but invites pleasure and play. That's so good.
When you look at kids, like kids are all sensation and they're so embodied. And like when you watch a 3-year-old play, they're not just yes anding. There's a lot of no's. Like, there's a lot of like,
true.
Do not do that. I don't want to give you my toy. I don't want to do that thing. No, I will not put pants on. No, I will not do this thing. No, I will not eat my food. Yes, I will play with it. And so I just love that like immediacy of it. And for me, like that is play. It's like being like, I am a body and I am just like enjoying the stimulus that's coming towards me. And I'm like either saying yes and welcoming it in deeper, or I'm saying no. And then like creating something with that no, like that feels like a really fun place to be.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you for that. Because, and also I think it gives permission for people to have a relationship to their no. Because I think we feel like I'm not allowed to say no and then I'm an asshole if I do. Like it gives it some wiggle room. It gives it some playfulness. It gives it some freedom to not feel like, like it just takes away some of the charge, which we love that.
Well, and turn it into a game. I mean, like I love like thinking what would be the no that would be so fun to try. And if it's play, we're just trying it out. Like we're just trying it. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm like, can I say something sort of explicit on your podcast?
Oh, fucking please. You're welcome to. Whatever feels safe to you.
I just went to a play party and my boundaries were no kissing, no fucking. And like that, I know a lot of people would hear that and be like, then why did you go to a play party? But like the amount of play that I could have. And I just wanted to experiment and see what it felt like to take those two things off the table for one night. And like what happened was like worlds opened. Like
wow,
so much was available. And I can always renegotiate my no's. I can always put those things back on the table. But sometimes it's really fun to take something off the table. And like, it is play to withhold. It is play to be like, no, like that can be like really fun and silly and sexy. And you can learn a lot. And so I was sort of like really proud of myself. Like, wow, I went to a play party and the prompt for the evening was like, what are some boundaries or some things you want to try just for tonight? And I loved that invitation. Like, I don't want to never kiss someone again, but for one night at a play party in a room full of people that I'm just meeting, like that's a really hot, fun limitation to play with. So yeah, I just wanted to offer that as like a hot, sexy, fun example that I was just like, wow, that no's can be a yes to a lot of other things. Like when I say no to one thing, I can be saying yes to like a whole new world of things that I didn't imagine.
I'm like, someone write that quote down. Someone write that quote down, because that's exactly, and I think we feel there's a lot to unpack with the no, right? It's like we feel guilt, we feel bad, and there's also like, sometimes a no is just a no, point blank, period. But sometimes I think with a no, like you said, it's like, oh, I'm just shutting it down, but there's never that end of there's more to explore. So I love that you said that it actually can be a gate. Like sometimes there's situations where it's no, bye, point blank, but there's other situations where it can be like, ooh, this is a no, but oh my gosh, this is an invitation to get curious about this. And that, oh, you're so good. Okay, I want to talk to you about so many things, but I'm like, MaryAnn, we have so much to talk about. Oh, it's so good. And speaking of like curiosity and exploration, well, first of all, you just are badass across the board, but you hold people so geniusly in their relationship to gender and their exploration. And I love, I love your work, and I love, stalking your Insta, and like how you normalize taking away the stigmas that we've put on ourselves, and put on gender that are absolutely absurd, that are just absurd, and that we've all bought into as a society. Can you talk to us about that and how you hold people? And I just want to say before, we get into the nuts and bolts and the juice here, like, I just, it sounds corny, but like, I want to bow to you. I want to give you a virtual hug, because I know friends personally, and I'm getting emotional, friends and loved ones that could have deeply benefited from being in your world, being in your circle. And they were, I know clients that were alone, before coming into this work, like alone, and felt, misunderstood and isolated. And so I just want to thank you for creating such safety. This work is so important. So I just want to like bow. It sounds corny, but I really want to bow to you, and I really honor you for doing this amazing work and making safety for these fucking amazing humans. So thank you before we get into it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that. That's just feels so good to receive and to hear, and coming from you, it means a lot. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, this work is something I'm really passionate about. I mean, I thought for so long something was inherently wrong with me. I think lots of us can relate to that feeling. That's a very human experience. And when I was digging into my sexuality, I kept feeling like there's a monster in the closet that I'm not ready to look at. And then a friend of mine, many friends started coming out as trans, and then friends started coming out as non-binary. And that word is something I hadn't heard before until a few years ago, when some friends started coming out as non-binary, and I was just sort of blown away by it. And then I had the pleasure of working with someone who calls themselves a gender doula. Their name is Cameron Wolf. I think their website is genderdoula.com. If you want to check them out, their work is incredible. And they met me with such just infinite openness. And that gift was profound. I didn't see them for that long, because it didn't take that long for things to just sort of like rush through and be open and accepted. And it was really beautiful. And that work is so powerful. And when I think about how much recognizing my own self as non-binary and as trans and as genderfull has expanded my life, it's just the gift I want to give everyone. And I think it's a gift that you can have no matter what your gender is. My personal philosophy is like, I don't know my full gender, and I don't know anyone else's. And it feels magical that we can even know what we do know, especially given the binary we're raised in. And I think gender exploration is for everyone. I think cis and trans folks alike can benefit from this exploration. I think it's the work of everyone. And it's something I really want to steward, because the future I want to live in is non-binary. The future I want to live in is fully expressed, and gender fuckery and gender expansion is a huge part of it. And that's the world. I constantly think about this quote. I can't remember who said it, but it was something, I think it was Golden Them on Instagram, said that if cisness didn't exist, then we wouldn't have to even be trans. Like, trans is in response to a binary, in response to a cis world, and like the cis supremacy that we're living under and experiencing. And I've seen, for me, like, if if we say in our work that sexuality lives in the sacral center, to me, gender is in the root. And so it's like that is the foundation of safety. That touches, my gender touches everything I do. It touches my relationship to work, money, sexuality, my body, everyone around me. It's really wild how much it touches. And I really want to like create that open space for people to come and have a really safe place to talk about it. And the thing that's so interesting for me with gender is like, we are genius creative beings and we find ways to cope. And our coping mechanisms are so unique. And I've also found that when they come to gender and sexuality, there can be a lot of shame around them. And I just want to be like, I am celebrating your ingenuity. Like, we don't have to put shame around your ingenuity. Like, that doesn't need to happen. Like, it just doesn't need to happen. And one example of that is like when I was a young child, one way I was expressing my gender is I was telling my parents that I had an imaginary twin brother that lived in my body. Like, that's fucking ingenious. That's a really smart way for a child to talk about an experience of gender that doesn't make sense to them, that they're trying to alert the adults in their life that like something else is happening. And like I was for a little while, like kind of ashamed of how I felt about my gender. And now I'm like, oh no, there was like some deep genius happening even before I had the words, before I had the language, before I had the pronouns I wanted. And so that's something to me, that gift that I got, that open space to talk about my gender was like life-changing. And then all the beautiful trans elders and guides and non-binary wonderful humans that I met, like, have just offered me so much space and so much love. And that's something I just want to offer anyone who needs it and craves it. And I think like we all deserve to feel so good in our bodies, and that includes in our gender and our gender expression. And I just want to open that up as wide as I can for anyone that needs that net and that love. To me, it's like, it's a safety net. Like, gender affirming work does save lives. And I had for a while a teacher who was trans, and they would always remind me like, you deserve affirming care. You deserve affirmative care. And I was like, oh, fuck, I love hearing that. And we all do. Like, yes, we all deserve affirmative care. That feels so real and like such a human right to me. And so hearing them reflect that back to me was like really, really beautiful.
Thank you. That is, yeah, and it's so interesting, especially in the work that we do, right? That's like, self-improvement and self-love. And I'm like, excuse me, like this is fucking weird that we're ignoring a huge, like, it's just fascinating to me that we're bypassing so much. And so thank you for, this conversation is just so needed. And this needs, I believe everyone, needs this work and needs to have this knowledge, and especially coaches and therapists that are holding humans. It kind of boggles my mind that we're still in the dark and there's a lot of ignorance. So thank you, first and foremost. I love what you said, that it's a continuous exploration. And I think so often we think, oh, this is it. Okay. Like, even if we do explore, it's like, that was cool, and so I love that you're welcoming us into, hey, everyone, we can continue this path and it could look like this. And I want to ask, like, what that looks like, because I'm even thinking of listeners now that are brave badasses that have started the exploration. I'm like, yeah. So I'm, first of all, celebrating those amazing humans that already started started that and are exploring. And then I have people that I know are curious, but are like, what the fuck does this all mean? Like, hey, friends, I'm listening to you both. What the fuck do I do with this information? So I know amazing humans on all different, ranges of the spectrum here. Like, so I know this is a broad stroke question, but like, I guess, how can we continue? How can we start? But also for the people that are already in this exploration, already in this play, already asking themselves their truth, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep asking myself, what is my truth? What is my truth? What is my truth? How do we begin? And how do we have the bravery to continue?
Oh my gosh, I love this. Thank you. Yeah, beginning, I think, is so like, it can be so simple. It can be such a small step. It can be like drawing a mustache on yourself in the mirror. One of my favorite things that's so easy and accessible for many people, not everybody, but for many people, is filters on Facebook, filters on Instagram, there's filters that have beards, there's filters that have makeup, and like it can be really fun to just try a bunch of filters and see like, oh, how do I feel about having a beard? How do I feel about having makeup in this like very, narrow, slender face with big lips? And how do I feel about this? And that's like a virtual dress up that we have access to that is really exciting and really fun. And to me, like a very nice, simple, private first step. Could record yourself and not post. Absolutely. I do that all the time. So it's like that to me is really beautiful. And I always recommend people start with dress up and start with solo play. And just imagining like, what would it be like if I was a different gender? What would it be like if I had no gender? What would it be like if all the things that I think make me a woman were not here, or were or were exaggerated? Or what if those things made me not a woman? And it's just really fun to like do a little thought experiment. And for the folks who are already working on this and already digging into it, I almost want to be like, ooh, my advanced invitation is always to bring others into the play if that feels safe and good. Ask someone to call you a name that feels really good. Like, does it feel good to be called sir or ma'am or prince or princess or queen or king or royal or being, or like what do you like want to try on, and then see how it fits and see what happens. I think what's so fun for me is like, while I've been doing this for a while, the play that I do with others, because when we have creativity like coming together and bouncing off each other and we're yes-anding or no-butting, to me, like the things that do get discovered are really juicy and really delicious, and seeing the way that people play and sometimes feeling the embodiment of like, oh, I loved when this happened and I did not love when that happened. And you can just start to recognize that. And so I love to recommend that people start play, especially gender play and gender exploration, start it solo, and even in an imaginative space is fantastic, or a virtual space. And then when you're feeling more confident and more like you're ready for the advanced step, I think playing with others can be really, really, really hot, and trying things on and seeing what feels good. And it could literally just be like, maybe you're at a cafe and they ask for your name on the cup and you say a name that's not yours. Like that's really fun. Like that can be a moment, sometimes I do that and then they call out like a name for the cup that's not mine. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was me today. Oh yeah, that's what the name I chose for the next 2 minutes.
I love it.
So like it can be really simple, but those things can be really powerful. And just seeing like what feels good, and inviting play in, like saying like, ooh, like, what do you think my name should be for the next 3 minutes of this interaction? Can be really, really fun.
Well, I love that too, because and thank you for answering that, because, some of for everyone, it's a different, experience, but I could already feel for some, especially that have been so defined as their gender.
Yes.
That this work could be wildly confronting.
Yeah.
And triggering. And But like I could already feel some people I could feel like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, and I could feel, so I empathize with also the others, I want everyone to feel seen and held, that are like, but what will that mean for me? Like I could feel the like in the body. And so thank you for ushering us in with play. Because it takes some of the, oh my gosh, it takes some of the panic away. And it's like, okay, this doesn't, like, let's just play. Let's just, like you said, like a kid, like, let's just explore. Like, it doesn't have to meet, like, let's just enjoy and have playfulness. So thank you for that. That is really, because I could feel some people being like, woohoo, and others deep resistance coming up around this. So thank you for that. I want for, because I love to, for anyone that's like, well, why? Because I know why. I know why. You know what I mean? Like, I know the value of why, but I could hear some of some friends listening and being like, well, why do I have to do this? Like, I'm down to do the self-improvement, but I want to do I'll do the pleasure work and the other stuff, but why this? Like, I could see, and no shade, I love everyone, I see you in your resistance and, like the cute stompy feet energy.
Yes.
So my question is, I'm with you, but for the folks that are saying, but why?
Yeah.
What do you say to that, if anything?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm so grateful that you're like anticipating responses.
Yes.
I have so many reasons why. So I'm just gonna name a few, and then if you have further questions, I would love to hear them. Or if there's follow-ups from that, I would love to hear it. I think for me, and something that was just coming up for me as you were reflecting back and adding to this conversation was the more that we destigmatize gender play, the easier it is and the safer it is to be trans and non-binary in this world. And we, on a very, very serious note, we don't know who's trans and non-binary until they tell us. We have no idea. So that could be your child, your best friend, you. It could be you. You could be non-binary or trans and not know. And that is beautiful. And this play can open up so much space. And I know that could be really scary for some people to hear, but I really want to say, like, gender violence is real. Women talk about it a lot. And I really appreciate hearing women talk about it. And I don't want women to forget the solidarity of their siblings, their trans and non-binary siblings, who experience the brunt of gender trauma and gender unsafety in this world, specifically trans femmes of color, Black and Indigenous trans femmes specifically. I want to live in a world that's safe for as many humans as possible. And the more that we destigmatize gender play and the more that we start to undo our own transphobia and the binary within us, the safer it becomes for everyone and the more that we all benefit. And if that's something that feels challenging for any listeners out there, I really recommend that you go listen to Alok on the Man Enough podcast. Alok explains it so much more eloquently than I could ever, and for like a really beautiful full hour, and talks about how our liberation is all bound together. So I don't need you to do this for me as a trans person. I need you to do this for you as a human being. And I'm working on my liberation, which adds to yours. And I ask you to work on your liberation that adds to mine and creates the world of liberation that we all get to live in and benefit from. And then the other thing that I want to say that's like a really beautiful benefit of this is, and you sort of started to allude to it, is like folks playing and being like, what does this mean? When we find out what things mean to us, that is like ultimate expansion because we're creating the meaning. So if I have, if I'm a human who was born with a penis and I wear lipstick and I suddenly think that means something, I just hit a belief. And that's a really powerful place. That's a really powerful door. You can choose to open it or not, but that's like a really powerful door to open. And I love that we can open those doors. I just like love that. And that creates more safety and more expansion for all of us. And to me, that's like a very, very powerful why. It's like we talk about self-improvement. And for me, like self-improvement is cool, but it also has a dark side. And I'm more about like holistic self-acceptance and like, there's selves of you that you don't know because you were born and raised in a binary. The other thing I want to say is like intersex people exist. Like even the sex binary isn't real. So it's really important that we recognize that we were born into something that was created and fabricated. And while it is impactful in our lives, it is not fact. And intersex people exist. And we need to make space for them. We need to honor them.
So something really cool just happened. It was really cool. And I'm glad we got to brainstorm on this. But we both hit a pause. And we're like, we have the gorgeous editing gods on our side. Thank you, editing crew, our amazing crew. And we both were like, let's edit. Let's make it perfect. And let's make it right. And this is around for our listeners around the intersex conversation. And what was so gorgeous is MaryAnn had such a beautiful intention to hold the community with integrity and with love. So they stopped and they said, excuse me, let's edit this out. I want to get this right. And I bow to you, MaryAnn. Thank you for doing that. And for me, what I saw, what I was witnessing is we're allowed to mess up. The goal is to see all humans and to hold all humans, and we want to be in integrity, and we want everyone to feel safe and loved, but sometimes we're going to mess it up, and that's okay. We just get back up. And I know for a lot of people that are starting this work, maybe they mess up pronouns and then they beat themselves up. Oh my gosh, I said the wrong pronoun. And then it makes the other person feel even more uncomfortable, and that was just, I had like a vision of this, so often I see people saying to a friend the wrong pronoun. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, are you mad at me? You mad at me? And it puts the other person into such a place of, oh my gosh, now I have to hold you during this moment. And so I just wanted to pause and say, wait, let's actually include this into the podcast, because this is part of the healing. This is part of, I want to note that sometimes it is going to be messy, and that's okay if we come back to the intention of really loving each other and holding each other and trying. So thank you for being willing to be a little bit messy for a moment. And thank you for your intention of, I really want to hold my community, my siblings with such love. So thank you for that. And thank you for being willing to be seen as imperfect, because we're all going to fuck it up. We're all going to fuck it up. We just need to try to come back. So thank you for that. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that highlight. And for me, that really brings up like humility as this like holistic view of like holding what I don't know and what I do know together. And then even like what you're saying, like while you're naming it as intention, which I think is so beautiful, you're also really taking into consideration as impact, which is what I'm like, as a person of color who's trans and queer, I do think about impact a lot, because a lot of people I know have really good intentions, but their impact is not like, it doesn't align with the intention that they had. And like the thing that you just named as the example was the pronouns. Like, while their intention may be very beautiful, when they are, like, you literally named it so perfectly, like when they are profusely apologizing, like their impact is suddenly different, and they're centering their mistake instead of this other person's honoring of their identity. And so like, I love that you're naming that. So like what I'm hearing you name is like this really beautiful fusion of impact and intention. And that's part of why I asked to pause too, is because my intention is to really like hold and honor my intersex siblings. And I'm noticing that my impact may be harmful because I am still brand new to my like that's only like a year-long learning journey that I'm in. And I do feel a little bit hesitant and vulnerable around saying the wrong thing or messing up. And it is a little scary. And I have deep empathy for anyone that's starting that journey, and in any way, whatever that journey is. And like, do really want to just honor the way that as humans we do. It's so important that we like acknowledge how we impact each other, as well as acknowledge our own intentions, but really acknowledging and holding like how we impact each other and how we can. And like, that's part of our power as human beings, is to impact one another. And sometimes that's a beautiful way, and sometimes that's like a challenging way.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you for being willing to like, go on that journey, because, and especially I wanted to highlight for, especially as you, who's a leader. And so thank you for playing with me, like being an example of a leader in this work, and also being like, I'm not perfect. I really want to try. I want to hold people, I want to see people. I want to honor their truth deeply. And you, even as a leader, are like, I'm so sorry that I feel crunchy around this. I feel sticky around this. And so I wanted to, for me, I was like, this is actually a beautiful moment, because you teach this, you hold this, you embody your truth so beautifully. And I think it was, at least for me, it was a gorgeous permission slip. And I think for the listeners, especially the listeners that are new to this, that are like, I'm interested, but I'm scared shitless.
Yeah.
Like, it gives a permission slip to okay, we're going to get wobbly sometimes. We're going to get wobbly. And I love what you said. It's impact over intention, because sometimes intentions, is a interesting, relationship. But thank you as a leader. I think this was really important for me, at least. It was really beautiful to witness that you have, I'll say intention for lack of a better word, of like, I want to do the best. I want to hold people deeply. So thank you for going on that journey with me, because I think that for me, that was a profound moment.
Thank you so much for naming that. I mean, as like, yeah, we're both leaders, and we're both human, and it can be scary and messy to be humaning and leading in front of people and messing up in front of people and with people. And like, It is scary. It is vulnerable. So thank you for naming that and honoring that. I really appreciate that.
Of course, of course. And speaking of community, something that you are just amazing at is holding community, loving up on community, serving community, and something that you do that is fucking epic is you hold space and have a community for amazing transhumans, which we must discuss. So hold on, we must discuss that, A, and B, we must discuss something that touched me deeply was the abundance conversation within the trans community and rewriting the scarcity conversation. And that for me, having friends that are trans, people that I love that are trans, I'm like, oh, this hit so fucking deeply. The conversation around scarcity and abundant, like, could we dive into that? Because that is such an epic bomb that we have to discuss.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad you're bringing it up because that is like when I was reflecting earlier this year on what I wanted my year to be and what I wanted to do and serve and work on. It was like trans wealth. Like that's what I'm fucking dedicating this year to in my business. That's what I'm dedicating this year to my personal life. Like, oh, when you're told you can't even exist and there's literally laws being made that go against your safety and well-being, which if you're in the US, those are happening. They're terrifying. They affect and impact real people, including children, which is really scary to me. How on earth can you know that you can thrive? If you aren't even allowed to exist, how can you know you get to thrive? And so this is work that started on a really personal place for me. I've been doing abundance work for a long time and it was like working, but it wasn't clicking. I wasn't having those moments. I see people have these quantum leaps. And about 7 or 8 months ago, I was like, oh my gosh, if my gender is related to everything, my gender is certainly related to money, certainly related to abundance and wealth. And a lot of times one of the really sad, contradiction. Thank you. Thank you. Just came through the contradiction of the trans space is that a lot of times visibility equals unsafety. And while that can be perceived unsafety, that can also be actual bodily unsafety, and that could open you to more harm and violence. And it's really sad and really scary. And again, this is a place where I hold privilege also, and I honor that. I'm not in the most vulnerable center of this issue. And I also feel like when I think about what it meant to be trans even 50 years ago, it's extremely unsafe. And that's the lineage that we come from. Those are our ancestors. Those are our trans elders. That's where we're coming from. And so healing this is healing ourselves, and it's healing our community, and it's healing our lineage. It's honoring our trans elders and our transcestors, which is a word I heard from Dr. Pavani Moray. And our transcestors, there's such a lush history. We come from such a lush lineage, and there was such abundance for so long. And then there was scarcity and danger and violence and erasure. And we've been really impacted by it, and it's scary. And it's something that when I sort of realized this was happening in me about 9 months ago, one thing I really love to honor and ask is like, is this a moment of self-responsibility or community responsibility? And for me, it felt like this is a community issue. This is beyond me. Every day I'm on Instagram and I see beautiful, incredible trans people in deep need, like deep need for housing, for healthcare, for mental health care, for just like security, food security, housing security, care after a gender affirming surgery or procedure. And I like ache. I just ache. And I want to be, my personal goal is to be a trans multimillionaire and to uplift my community and to create so much wealth and abundance within the community and to bring community into that space with me. I don't want to be a part of a hierarchy. I don't want to be the only one to provide. I want to be in a space where we're bringing each other up. And I've noticed a lot of hesitation around this, and including in my own body. Like when I was getting really deep into my work with it, with my coach, something that came up was betrayal. Having money, having security, especially around housing, healthcare, and food, feels like betraying my community. It feels like leaving them behind. And that's so scary for me. I don't want to leave them behind, not only for their safety, but because I also need community. I want them with me. I want them abundant. I want them healthy. I want them wealthy. And so I've started this monthly circle called Replenish Circle, and it's so beautiful. It's we gather together trans and non-binary siblings once a month, and we work on scarcity and abundance and safety. And it's just been transformative. And I'm so committed to it, and I'm loving seeing it grow. It's been growing, and it's stunning. And it's really reminding me that this is community work. And it's really reminding me how much gender is a part of everything for everybody, but especially for us. And so often cis people get to experience spaces that are just for them, like just women or just men. And I think it's really beautiful to be on a Zoom call or in a room with just trans and non-binary siblings and look around and think while we're all very different, and being trans is very unique, singular experience, like individual experience, different for everyone. I'm not singular, but individual. There is camaraderie, there is understanding, there is a shared spirit. And like gender isn't always the main topic, but it's so welcome in that space where it hasn't been welcome for me in other spaces. And in the first circle, we were talking about what would feel really abundant. And someone said like having a budget for gender affirming clothing. And I was just like, and everyone put their hand in their heart and was just like, oh, we feel you. And we want this for you. And we want this for ourselves. And it was just this deep recognition in that first circle that I had not had yet in an abundant space. And that alone felt abundant. Like community is abundant. And knowing that we're not alone in these struggles is so powerful. And we really do support each other. When I see fundraisers for folks who are raising for gender affirming procedures, like I see so many gender blessed folks giving. And I love that. And I also want more integration around that. I want more cis people to give to us. And I want our community to be able to receive more. And I want our community to have more cumulative wealth and resource. To me, that's the goal. That's the dream. So yeah, that's a lot on that topic, but you really hit on
a good one. Well, I want to highlight too, you and I know this because this is our body of work, but for some people, they're kind of like, well, I don't get like the bridge. I don't get the bridge, but it's, you can't ask someone, we talk about self-growth and thriving and the vision boards and all the things, but you can't have thriving if we're not surviving.
Yes.
It just can't happen. And I know personally, different things. I also, for so many years, was obsessed with thriving, because I was in this community. And I was like, Erica, bitch, your survival needs, you are not taking care of some of your like, of course I had a roof over my head, of course, but some survival primal things I was not nourishing myself.
Yes. Wow.
And, and yet I was so obsessed with thriving and, the vision board and the this and the this. It's like your basic needs, even that you're giving to yourself, are not being met. So I love within the trans community where, like you said, there's already, people are not feeling seen or accepted. How the fuck, are people supposed to thrive when it's like, I don't even feel fucking seen. I don't even feel taken care of. Like, yeah, okay, now I'm going to create a vision board. Like there is a disconnect. And I thank you so much for creating that bridge and that safety. And I know we talked about this on the pre-call, and I was thinking, because we're in this world, how many times have we seen the abundance course or, manifest the white Mercedes and God bless, manifest the white Mercedes, take us all in, like we've seen that. And that's so part of our world. And yet I didn't realize until we had that conversation how exclusive that is.
Oh, yes. It's exclusive.
Right. Because it's like, okay, God bless, have the white Mercedes. I don't have money for, like you said, gender affirming surgery. I don't have the resources to purchase clothes that are my fucking truth. And you're going to ask me to manifest a white Mercedes. I still want the white Mercedes, but there's something, there's a primal need that is not being, my basic needs are not being taken care of. And then on top of it, I'm in a society that looks at that like it's nothing.
Yeah.
So
it actively tries to keep me from that.
Exactly.
In many
places. Like, in many
yes.
places. Yeah. So thank you for that, because I think people might be like, "Oh yeah," but it's like the surviving and thriving thing are huge. And not only are you giving people permission and seeing people and holding people through surviving and the basic, like, you know, surgery that is needed and clothing that is needed, but you're also giving them permission of like, I especially want you to have money. You know, like, I want you to have those resources to give to yourself and other beautiful communities. So, and can we talk about that for all my trans folks I know are listening? Like, can you give us evidence? Because I know sometimes we're like, there's, especially with, you know, and especially now that we're kind of investigating our relationship to capitalism, you know, and we're kind of like, which we could talk about another day. But so I'll go through that briefly. But especially since we're, you know, a lot of us are questioning our relationship to capitalism. And, you know, there's an end.
Yeah.
I want, like you said, I want trans folks to have money in their hand. So they can first of all have a flourishing, beautiful life, but they can give to community. So can you give us examples? Because I know some trans friends that might be like, I don't need, you know, can you give us some examples or some evidence why it's so important, especially for a beautiful community like this, to have resources?
Yeah. I'd love to start with a fantasy that I had that really tipped me from the, like, I don't need anything to like, oh, fuck, I want to have things. Yes. I was walking in the park 2 years ago, mid-pandemic. Things were rough. You know, it was summer 2020, and I'm walking in the park and I had my phone out and I saw someone needed $4,000 for a gender affirming surgery. I don't know this person, friend of a friend, posted on Instagram. My friend posted it on their story. And I had this incredible rush. I'm getting emotional even thinking about it. My whole body opened. I couldn't even pay my rent. I was unemployed at the time. I was still getting certified to be a coach. And my whole body just like opened, and I just had this incredible desire to just Venmo that person 10 grand anonymously. I just wanted to just be like, here's the 4 you need, and here's the 6 to take care of yourself for 2 months. And I just like, I get emotional talking about it because that's a life-changing amount for that person. 10 grand would be a life-changing amount. And it would just be an investment in them getting to live the life that they deserve. When I thought about it, I didn't have 10 grand. I could only give 25 at that moment responsibly. And I just thought, I see a world where 10 grand could be insignificant for me and life-changing for someone else. And I want to be in that world. And this is suddenly why I want to be a millionaire, because I want, or whatever that means. Millionaire for me is an energy of abundance. It's not a number. And it's like, oh, fuck, I want to be able to just do that and give that. And the other thing that keeps coming for me is we are in a moment where money is a big resource. And so as long as that is the truth, I'm so happy to shift and change as that does. I can't wait for those moments.
Yes.
But until that paradigm shifts, I want to have as much as I can, to give as much as I can. I want to be a very secure, and we can't give until we're secure. I couldn't give that person 10 grand because I didn't even know how I was going to pay my rent the next month. So it's like, I know that I have to be secure to give. And I know that the more that I have, the more I can give. Another thing that I just want to point out is something that my coach helped me understand, which I'm so grateful for. Marissa Hunter, incredible coach. And the reason that I hired her is because so many people before her had told me, so many coaches I was sort of, dancing with and seeing if we'd work together with, had sort of told me like, oh, create this model where you charge cis people or non-queer people this much money, and then you offer your services for free to trans and non-binary people. And well, that like, okay, I get that model. There's something about that just didn't seem very like aspirational to me. And I want to be aspirational. And while Replenish Circle will always be, as long as I have it in this form, it will always be pay what you wish. So you can pay nothing. You can pay whatever you want. You are always welcome if that's a space that calls to you. As a trans and non-binary person who wants to talk about abundance, please come to that and enjoy that. That's for you. That's for us. That's for our community. When I talked to Marissa, Marissa was like, well, first of all, don't assume smallness. Like, fuck that. And I was like, yes, fuck that. That is the part that felt sticky. Like, I don't want to assume trans people can't pay me. And I want them all to make so much money. Like, it's kind of broken my heart a little bit because in the last 3 months, I have had 3 trans clients who can no longer afford my services and are very much like, I'll see you when I can. And I'm like, yeah. And until then, come to Replenish Circle, do the abundance work. Like, let's get you to a place where you can afford the care that you want and need. So, but the other thing Marissa offered me, which was such a gift, was this thing I hadn't realized before, which was there are trans people who can pay whatever the fuck you charge. And I was kind of like, what? And then Marissa was like, how much better would the world be if you were Caitlyn Jenner's coach? And I was like, oh, fuck. 1,000 times better. Like, we would get some of that shit straightened out. Like, we would work on that. Like, I would love that challenge. So yeah, Caitlyn Jenner, if you're listening, please hire me. We can work on all the things happening. So I loved that. And that felt powerful. And like, I want to charge a lot of money and I want clients who are trans and I want a world where that feels possible. And so part of my investment in that world is opportunities like Replenish Circle and conversations like this, because it does no good when I hear my trans friends who are so fucking talented and magical as fuck can't pay their rent. That is a heartbreaking moment, and that I can't have that happening anymore. And you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so there's a part of me that's like, I'm going to create the oasis, or not create it, but like, I'm going to find it. I'm going to show it to you. And then I'm going to ask you to do the work and get yourself in that bath, baby, because like, I want us all to be so, like, we deserve our up level. I'm ready. Like, I'm fucking ready for us. And then the thing that Marissa keeps reminding me is like, in this world, in this structure, as long as we're here in this paradigm, money is power. So you want money to legislate, you want money to sue people, you want money to fix like issues and create healthcare centers that are affirmative. That takes money. That's capital. And so if I want to see the trans inclusive world that I want, there needs to be some capital, and it can't just be me pulling that. You know, we all like, I'm like, we can do this, baby. And then the thing that gives me so much hope is more people are sharing their gender magic with us every day. And we're creating more safety, and there's more strength in numbers around that. And so I'm very hopeful for a future that embraces that creates that. And this is a lineage wound. We have an intergenerational trauma around abundance as trans people. And it's time for us to honor and heal that. And that's the other thing. I know I've said it before, but I just want to keep reiterating it. We come from deep abundance. Like, nature is abundance. Transness by itself is abundance.
Yes.
And I want us to honor our nature. And when I do the opening meditation for our circle lately, every month, I'm just like moved to tears because I feel the transcestors coming in and our trans elders. Like, I feel their energy being like, thank you for honoring us in this way. And then I feel our transcendence, another word I got from Dr. Pavni Moray, I feel our transcendence being like, yes, like, you are walking so we can run. Like, this is what we needed. Like, we need to soar. And so like, we are in a moment of deep work. And also, what an honor it is to do this deep work. I'm so honored that I get to be openly trans. I'm so honored that there is enough safety for me to like say that I'm trans and call in trans people to work around this. Like, we are in a very special moment, and I don't want it to go unnoticed, and I don't want it to pass us by. I really want us to take those quantum leaps and heal these huge wounds, because I see for us a future of like infinite abundance and possibility.
Yes, I wanna frame I want to frame 4,000 things, but because of time's sake, and we'll have to have you back because you're amazing, I want to frame 2 things before we transition to where people could find you and get into your world. The thing about money with the capitalist conversation is like, you're right. You know, so often so many people are like, well, it's a capitalist. And I'm like, yes. And as of now, here we are in it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you can feel all the ways. I feel a lot of those ways too. And unfortunately, we're in this matrix. You know what I mean? So it's like, we want to empower these amazing people to not get sucked into it, but like, this is what we're dealing with now. So instead of being like, fuck it, I don't want anything to do with it, I'm so glad that you're like, I know, friends, this sucks. And I want you to have those things so you could use that money in an empowering way to give to places and communities that need it. And that, I love what you said too, not only need, desire.
Yes.
And so often with the trans community, it's just, we're just talking about basic needs that are not even met. So thank you for voicing, no, these amazing humans deserve their needs met, but also their desires met. And thank you for that. And I want everyone to know that their desires, of course, are worthy and needed. And thank you for that. And I love what you said. It gave me the tingles that like trans people are, you know, inherently abundant. It made me giggle. I was like, yes, it's true. It is. That in itself is such a beautiful, it could bring me to tears. Like, trans people are inherently abundant. So I want to thank you for that. That was really profound. About the capital and, you know, about the capitalism and that. There was just so many. There was one more frame that left me because I think I was on the ride with you. So I forgot what it was. But it was so moving. So thank you for that. That really was beautiful. And I want to talk to you literally for 50 hours.
Yeah.
Please. I'm like, wait, there's more.
Clear the schedule.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, everyone, we have things to do. Oh, this is what I had to say. Because I was like, I have to frame this before we go. The frame that I loved was that your coach said, we're playing into people's smallness.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think there's a space, of course, for people that need it. And I am so glad like some people actually need it and just genuinely can't right now.
Yes.
And so when we do offer sliding scale or, you know, free work like this podcast and pay what you can, God bless.
Yes.
And I love that you're not feeding into the narrative of these people playing small, these amazing humans. So thank you.
Yes. I love that you're framing that because like that coach, Marissa Hunter, there were coaches that had much more accessible rates for me. And yet I was drawn to her because that aspiration, and she believes in me so much. And she was like, I know that like at some point you can pay me and it will be amazing. I have full faith that like what now feels like a major stretch very soon will feel easy. And just those words alone, I felt like I grew so much in those words. And then when she said not to assume anyone else's smallness, like if people ask for things and they need them, we meet them in their need, but like, yes. And we can choose to meet them in their need or not. But like not to assume smallness. And that like, really, I was like, fuck. And I could feel her not assuming my smallness. And that made me so much bigger. And so I'm really grateful. Like, and that's why I hired her. I was like, fuck yes, you're hired. This is what I've been waiting to hear. I didn't know what it was that I was waiting for, but like, that was it. Like, I don't want to for trans people for free because that does feel like a disservice.
Yes. And even I know for myself, for all humans, when I do that, I think, oh, I'm helping. And so often it's like, I'm playing into, you know, again, there's a need. If there's a need, hell yeah, let's meet you. Let's do it up. But when I already jump the gun and I'm like, it's okay. Like, they're like, whoa, I didn't even ask for this need. I'm assuming something, and that doesn't feel empowering. It's like, I want to meet you. It's our job to see the highest version of this person and be like, I see you as an abundant being. So let's get you to this place. Like, I want to see you as the person that can afford this, that can invest in themselves. So I fucking love that frame. So thank you for bringing that here because that is just so, so important.
I love that. Yes. Thank you. I love that. Beautiful.
It's so good. I know. I'm like, I could jam on that for hours because the abundance conversation. I'm like, wait, we can make a whole podcast about this. Like, it's so good. No, but it's important. I remember too, and they always say like, you know, once something, you know, is so cheap or you don't put value into it. Like as a student, you're like, oh, I don't really value this. I'm not going to really do it. that's one side of the coin. But I think the deeper side of the coin is, does this person not think I can show up?
Yeah.
Does this person not think I can rise?
Yes.
So thank you from the bottom of my heart for making community, spaces, work that welcomes others to rise. You're saying, I fucking see you. You are not small. You are abundant. You are beautiful. And I love that you're there like, let's go. Like you are there like cheering everyone on like, let's go. I got you. You can stretch, you know, and making it accessible. If people, of course, like if a need is not met, you still hold them. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Again, I could talk to you for 24 hours, but we will be good with time. We'll be fair with time. Before we wrap, where can everyone find you, be in your circle? Tell us about, you know, where they can find your beautiful work.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yes, I could talk to you for hours. This has been a true joy and pleasure, and it's delicious. Yes, you can find me at thekindlingkind.com. The Kindling Kind is my business name. You can find me at The Kindling Kind on Instagram. I also use my personal Instagram to share my personal life and my business are really integrated, which I really enjoy and love. And so my personal Instagram is MA_George, Ma_George. You can find me there. I love to talk and share what I'm doing. On my website, there's a freebies section, which is where you're going to find the circles, the Replenish Circle, which is monthly. And I also sometimes do other fun circles like an art making circle or a breathwork circle. So they're all pay what you wish. Please check that out. There's also some really fun, yummy, free meditations. And there's even, if you are looking to explore gender and you want a first step or 100th step, there's a layers of gender activity that comes with meditation and a worksheet. So that's on there too. Please check that out. It's really fun and really delicious. And then something that's really exciting is I'm turning 33 in 10 days. And as a trans person of color, I just got to say, I did not think I was going to make it to this stage. I'm so thrilled to not only be celebrating a 33rd birthday, but to be like truly loving my life. I'm getting emotional. There was many, many years where that was not my truth, and it is now. And so I'm celebrating that really deeply. Like I feel like I've made it through some fires, and I'm really celebrating my own survival, and I'm really grateful to be here. So I am throwing, be really extra, I'm throwing a 3-day birthday event, March 30th to April 1st. It's free. Come join me. Each day of the event, I'll be sharing 11 things that I've learned on my journey, and we'll do a little integration and a little sharing. It's going to be really powerful. And that'll all add up to the 33 life lessons that I want to share with the world. 33 years, 33 life lessons, which I'm super, super excited. And also, I'm just going to give your listeners a sneak peek, because at that party, I'm going to unveil my newest offering, but I'm going to give y'all a sneak peek now. A year-long mentorship with me. And if any of your listeners want to be interested, find me, hit me up, and I'll give you a 10% discount if you mention this podcast. So come in my container. There's only 3 spots available for the year-long mentorship. I'm really fucking excited. It's going to be high touch, really intense. I'm going to just bring you all that I'm going to bring my whole self to you and sort of offer my whole self for your growth, for your glow up, for your power and empowerment. And I'm really, really excited. So I'll be launching that and explaining that at the 3-day event, but that's my fun teaser for y'all. And if you want 10% off, just let me know that you listen to this podcast, and I'd love to give your listeners that really special insider deal.
Yes. Thank you so much. Again, I'm like, we did scratch the surface. We went in for some gems, but I'm like, we have even more. Like, we have even more inside of us. Yeah. I cannot thank you enough. Seriously, thank you for coming. You are a radiant human, and I'm blessed and grateful to know you. And thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. Seriously.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. It's like saying the pleasure was all mine isn't even like begin to. I'm like, you're a radiant human, and thank you for your light and your beautiful gifts to the world. And thank you for offering me this space to talk about my passion with you. It's really a very deep honor. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode and on this podcast journey. And if you loved what we talked about today, and you know another human who could definitely benefit from what was discussed, I would so appreciate if you would go ahead and share this podcast with them. Don't forget, hit subscribe or follow so you never ever miss an episode. And the great news is you can always follow me, my work, my blog, my podcast on my website at www.wethelight.org. And hey, remember, life is so much brighter when we shine. I'll see you next time.